Let's continue our deep dive into the Illustrator tools that we use while we pattern draft. I am super excited. Today's tools are the Cut tool and the Measure tool. Hi, I'm Christina Hadley Dyke Roosevelt, and I love to digitally apparel pattern in Adobe Illustrator. I love being able to switch between the tools very quick and just make my designs super fast, starting with my sloper and just starting to draw over it, cut it apart, and put them back together. If you haven't already, make sure to grab my key commands and useful charts from the description box so that you can start learning these key commands super fast and get patterning faster. So let's dive on in to the Cut and Measure tool. So when we are wanting to do something, sometimes you need to cut it apart. So if we wanted to take this single dart bodice and create it to be a double dart bodice, we're going to actually have to cut these lines apart to actually achieve that. So the command is C, but before I do that, I'm actually going to highlight the line segment or line path that you want to cut apart. So now that I have it highlighted, I'm going to hit C, and I'm just going to cut the two bits of it apart. And now you can see that part of this pattern is highlighted. Now, if I want to actually create a double dart bodice, what I would do is highlight. So right now it's actually all highlighted. When it's all highlighted, that means it is still grouped together. So earlier I showed you how to group. So sometimes you just will need to ungroup. So that was having our bust point and our little notch. So now that I have that not grouped, I can just highlight the part of the pattern that I'm going to be moving to create the second dart. So then once I have it cut apart, I can hit the rotate and we can just rotate it. But you see, I left that extra notch. Whoops. So then all you just have to do is make sure you select it with it and then hit rotate on that anchor point. And then all you would have to do is go and put that dart back in. Now that is not the actual way to flat pattern a single dart bodice to a double dart bodice. That is a rough and tumble, not correct way to do it. There's actually measurements and everything, but for the purpose of showing you that cut tool, that is how I do it. The other thing that I love to do with the cut tool is actually measure stuff. So to measure, say we want to measure the two side seams to make sure that they are equal. What we're going to do is cut the two seams apart. So now my patterns are not continuous. There are breaks in them. We're going to come over here to the information, go to objects, and it will tell you that the one that is highlighted is the back side seam right now, and that's 4.13. And now we are going to highlight the other one, and it's also 4.13. So we know they are close enough to equal. They are like 0.005 of an inch off. I'm going to call that right on the money. So there is a measure tool as well that you can click on, and you can actually measure. So if you click and drag, a little pop-up box will pop up and it will tell you the length. So D, distance 8.37. But what if you're trying to measure a curve? So I have this shirt that I created for Valentine's Day, and I needed to double check that this curve here would fit into the rest of my bodice, or to fit into the waist seam of this bodice. So what I did is I cut apart and then highlighted, made sure I was in the objects, and I found that that was 20 inches there. And then you just make sure that it matches to what either you patterned against or that where it's going into. And if you need to add notches to make sure it doesn't stretch, or if you're stretching something into or gathering, depends on if you're doing wovens or knits, into another things, those notches will help you a lot. So that is the measure tool and cut tool. I use them together a lot, but the cut tool is essential because also when these patterns are, that one's still grouped together, but this one's not. So that is now completely separated from that. So if we want to rejoin it, we learned earlier about the join tool where we can either grab this and slide on over, or we can hit A and do our Control Shift Alt J, and it's a corner, and there we go. That is those tools. I hope you enjoyed that. Definitely make sure you're grabbing that key commands and useful charts down below. And definitely check out some of the other videos in this section so that you can really get digitally apparel patterning and start to understand these tools that we use all the time while we're digitally apparel patterning. I will see you in another video.